Okay, everyone, Math Fairy here, ready to do some serious math with you today. Starting you off with a quote, and then we're going to look at a task that has some fractions in it. All right, so let's check it out. So my quote for today, it is magic until you understand it. And it is mathematics thereafter. Yes, it seems like magic sometimes when you're doing math, that it actually works out. And you're like, what? It worked. What? Was that magic? Well, it was math. And once you understand it, then there is the true math. Because it's not just magic, it's math. Okay? So I'm hoping to help you understand this math. Here we go. Let's take a look at the task for today. So here I have a multiplication magic is even in the name of the task, square. So here I have a square. And why is it a square? Can you say it before I do? Because each side has the same length. What? There are no lengths given. Yeah, there actually are. Look at that. Has a side length of 3 up here, 3 grids, and a side length of 3 over here, and a side length of 3 down here, side length of 3 there. We have a square. But, oh my gosh, there are letters in it. In math, we call those variables. We don't know what those are. They stand for some number. But there are some numbers given in it. We have a 1, we have a 4, and we have, a fraction, 1/8. Let's see what we have to do. In this multiplication magic square, the product of the 3 numbers in each row, let's check out. Okay, in each row, so if I take a row and I were to find the product, so I'd have to take P times Q times R. It says that should equal 1. But then it also says it'll happen in every column. So if I go to a column, let's say I go to this one, R times T times 1/8 should equal 1. And diagonals need to work too. So let's check out a diagonal. So let's say I go to this diagonal. So I have P times 1 times 1/8. Guess what? It has to equal 1. All the products need to be 1. Rows, columns, diagonals. They all have to equal 1. I'm so excited. Okay. Oh, but then there's a question. What is the value of R plus S? Oh gosh, I don't know. I would have to know what R and S is. Oh gosh. Okay, so let's try to figure this thing out. So first, hopefully you have your own paper and pencil, or pen, or marker, or crayon, or maybe you use a paintbrush. I don't know. Okay, and you should draw out this square for yourself. Pause the video, draw it out, and just take some time to try this out yourself before I start in. Okay, so pause that video, try it out, make some attempts, see what you can do, because I'm starting in. Okay, so I look up here. I need to know what R and S are. And if I go here, S. Well, let's see. If I go to this column, P times S times U. Well, that doesn't help me because I don't know what I don't know what that number is, and I don't know what U is. So that column's not going to help me. If I go to this row, I have an S times a 1 times a T. Well, now it gives me a number, but then I don't know what T is. So it's going to be hard for me to find what S is. And S does not exist in one of the diagonals. So I'm not going to start with S. Okay, let's see if we could start with R. If I go to R and I check out the row, well, it doesn't give me any numbers there. If I check out the column, it just gives me 1 number, and then I don't know what T is. If I go to the diagonal, oh my gosh, it only gives me 1 number. What? What do I do? Well, I have an idea. That means I should not start by finding the value of R or S. I'm going to have to start by finding the value of some other variable. And if I take a look, I'm trying to find a row or a column that has at least two numbers, because that'll help me. So right away I see this row has two numbers. So that means I could figure out what U is. And you might be like, well, I don't need to know U. I need to know R and S. Well, in order to figure out R and S, I need to know what U is first. I need to get some other variables to help me to get R and S. So with that hint, if you needed a hint, try that, okay? Because I'm going to start. So U times 4 times 1/8 needs to equal 1. Okay, so I can figure out this much right here. I need to find 4 groups of 1/8. So I could go 1/8, and I need that 4 times. 1/8, 1/8, and 1/8. And 4 of those put together, well, that would give me 4/8. And 4/8 is special because 4 is half of 8. So 4/8 is really equivalent to 1/2. So this chunk right here is just the same as 1/2. So now I have 1/2 times some number U equals 1. So now I have to figure out, okay, what number times 1/2 gives me 1? How many, so something groups of 1/2 equals 1. How many groups of 1/2 are going to equal itself out to 1? If I just have one group of 1/2, well, that's just 1/2. If I have two groups of 1/2, so two groups of 1/2, here is 1/2 over here, and here's a second group of 1/2, well, guess what? That's equal to 1. 2 halves equal 1 whole. So I just figured out U is the number 2. That's so awesome. Okay, so I'm going to mark that in, and I'm going to say U, year 2. Okay, so now where would you go? Well, I'm liking this diagonal right here. This diagonal, I could find what R is. 2 times 1 times R is supposed to be what? That product is supposed to be 1. Okay, well, 2 times 1, that's awesome. That's 2. Times some number gives me 1. Hey, this looks familiar because in the last one we had U times 1/2 equals 1, and U ended up being 2. Now look what we have here. 2 times something gives me 1. Well, 2 groups of 1/2. So there we have it. R is 1/2. Cha-ching. Okay, so now I have R. I have the value of R. I know that's 1/2. Now I need S. Can I go straight to finding S? Well, if I look in that column, I can't find that yet. If I look in that row, I can't find that yet. So I need to find either, should I go for T or should I go for P? So let's go ahead. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Should we go the other diagonal? Sure. Okay. All right, so we have R is 1/2. We have U is 2. Okay, let's go to this diagonal. So P times 1 times 1/8 is supposed to equal a product of 1. All right, so first I start here. One group of 1/8 is just 1/8. So what number times 1/8 gives me 1? So how many groups of 1/8 do I need to have it be equivalent to 1 whole? So if I look here at my circle, cut it up into 8. So here's 4. Make each one double. So I have 8. Here's 1/8. How many eighths do I need to make 1 whole? Well, 8. So I need 8 of the eighths to equal 1. So now I found what P is. That's 8. Cha-ching! So now, can I find the value of S? It looks like I can. Oh my gosh. So I actually ended up not needing to find every single variable. But you know what? I just want to. But let's go ahead and find the value of S, because right here I see S is in this column and I already have 2 numbers. So 8 times S times 2 is supposed to be 1. And you know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use a certain property in math to move the numbers around, and that is called the commutative property of multiplication, because we're multiplying. And then I'm going to associate those 2 numbers together with the associative property of multiplication. So here I go. I'm going to move these around. Commutative property. So I'm going to have 8 times 2 times S equals 1. Then I'm going to use the associative property of multiplication. Multiply those out, I get 16. 16 groups of what gives me 1? 16 groups? Holy moly, that's a lot. 16 groups of a half, will that give me 1? No, that would be way too much. 16 groups of an eighth? No, because remember I only needed 8 eighths. I needed 2 halves. I needed 2 halves to be 1. I needed 8 eighths to be 1. So how many would I need for 16 groups of something gives me 1? Well, they're going to have to be 16ths. I would need 16 of the 16ths to give me 1. So S is 1/16. Cha-ching! And what's so cool about this problem is that I'm still not done. Because I found the value of R and S, but now I need to actually add them together. So I have R is a half, S is 1/16. So let's add them together. So 1/2 plus 1/16. How do you do that, guys? Is that going to give you 2/18? Heck no. And let's see why. So let's draw this thing out. If I have half, and half I can easily draw with a circle, so I'm going to do it. I have half. And then I need to add 1/16 to this. Holy moly. So I'm going to add to that 1/16. So in a circle, I'm going to cut it up into 4, double that, cut it up into 8, double that, and 8 times 2, now that was a bad cut, but you get the idea. Cutting each one in half so that I have double those 8 pieces, and I should have 16. Okay, so 16. And I need to add to it 1 little 16th. So what is that all together? Well, that's a half and another 16th. Well, yeah, what is that if we put it all together in one fraction? Well, a half is the same thing as how many 16ths? How many 16ths would be existing over here? Well, not all 16, it would only be half of them. So this is worth 8/16. So if I have 8/16 and then I add 1 more 16th, I am at 9/16. Cha-ching! Oh my gosh, I absolutely loved that task. It was so much fun. I hope you had fun too. And keep mathing on, everyone.